Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. It's great to be here as always. Thank you for tuning in. This morning, we suffered through oral arguments on a live stream of the VanDerStok v. Garland case, or actually, I think it's the Garland v. VanDerStok case now, which is the case that is now at the Supreme Court on the merits dealing with the frame and receivers rule. And I can tell you that the mainstream media, the corporate press, is absolutely losing their crap right now. They are freaked out that the Supreme Court is going to bust open this whole ghost gun crap that they've been doing for a long period of time and likely have some other consequences for the things that they like to do on a regular basis, which include infringe on the constitutional rights of American citizens. A few months ago, it may not be a few months ago. It might have been a month ago. I did a video when they submitted their brief saying that the ATF absolutely bold-faced lied to the Supreme Court in their brief. And I'm here to tell you that they just did it again, although I have one amendment that I would like to make to that. And that's what we're going to cover in today's video. I've got some highlights from the oral arguments this morning coming your way after we hear a quick word from today's sponsor. Today's video is brought to you by XS Sites. And normally I would give you a whole spiel about how I've been using them forever and they're my go-to site, but not today. Today, we're talking about Glocktober, which is a month-long sale at XS Sites. Anything that they make that is related to Glock accessories, that is 10% off. On top of that, they've got a giveaway running. So go over to XS, check out what they got going on over there for Glocktober. It goes from the 1st of October through the 31st. So go check it out. Thanks to XS for making today's video possible. Dummy-proof and ridiculously easy and capable of completion in as little as 15 minutes. And of course, they cite the Gun Violence Prevention Group. This is an outright lie. A frame or receiver is still a frame or receiver, even if the buyer must remove some superfluous plastic rails or drill a few holes to make it functional. That was me reading sections of the brief from the ATF, as in this is the information they are presenting to the court, and then the court today got to ask them questions about it. Well, how did the ATF handle that segment of it?
The big development and the technological development that led to the explosion of ghost guns was using polymer, a form of plastic, to make this.
Are there gun kits available now that do not consist of polymer parts, but instead consist of parts taken from disassembled firearms that have been altered in a way to make them non-functional without some modification?
I'm not aware of any commercial product right now that fits that description.
Liar. You guys saw my reaction, and I reacted that way because that exact configuration that the justice asked about has been around longer than I have, and you can see there's some gray coming in there. It's been a minute. I remember when I was in like single digits of age, my old man doing one of those kits, as in it was a kit that came in a box and you had to manufacture your own receiver type thing. Really popular in like the AK sphere, but it was also some of the Mausers and things like that from overseas. That was the origin of the parts kit gun. And either she has no idea what she's talking about, which we'll get to here in a second, or she's absolutely lying. Not for the first time, and definitely not for the last time in today's video.
You know, a gunsmith just wanted to replenish inventory and got a big box of gun parts generally from a gun manufacturer. Would that count under the ATF regulation?
No, the lower court fundamentally misunderstood how this final rule operates. In the first place, it doesn't regulate something like a gunsmith at home who's buying individual parts and seeking to aggregate them. This is a regulation that only governs commercial manufacturers and sellers of firearms who are themselves constructing the weapons and the kits and putting them on the market. So these are just conditions on commercial sale.
Since gunsmiths aren't federal firearms licensees, yes, they absolutely are federal firearms licensees. If you are operating as a gunsmith, as a business, you have to have a federal firearms license. Yes, this does absolutely impact gunsmiths. the concept that it doesn't either, again, shows the ignorance of the attorney that is speaking, or she is lying to the justice. And I will say on more than one occasion through the oral arguments today that both Justice Kagan and Sotomayor asked pretty good questions. And I think you ought to go listen to the full thing, and the transcripts will be available later today, I think. Anyway, let's continue with what she was saying. Again, yet another lie.
And then with respect to what the rule would cover, it's clear from the readily convertible analysis that you need to have a process that's fairly quick, easy, and efficient. And so it wouldn't sweep in things that have a lot of other uses and that would require a lot of skill and expertise or time to track down the missing parts to put together. And I want to emphasize again, it's not like ATF was coming up with this rule without real-world experience about the kinds of products that these fringe manufacturers were putting on the market. These were kits that you could put together in under an hour. They had all of the relevant components. You would just need to do a little bit of finishing work. I actually had the experience of putting one of these kits together, and it's just like what the record shows. There are usually only a couple of steps. The first thing that most of the kits require is drilling the holes. Usually it's 6 holes, and you do it with the jig. So you have the product there in the tool, and it removes all of the trial and error or guesswork. You know exactly where to drill in seconds. The second step is to remove the extra plastic blocking tabs. That again doesn't require much work at all because you clip them off with a pair of pliers or a box cutter. You can file it down with a jig as a template using a metal nail file or using a Dremel rotary tool that a lot of people, especially dog owners, own because it's helpful for trimming your dog's nails. At that point, you have a fully functional frame or receiver, and you can quickly assemble it into a gun in no time at all.
This is considerably more difficult than some superfluous plastic or drilling some holes. That's like saying that it only takes 15 seconds to swap out a brake pad. Yes, the actual act of taking the brake pad out of the caliper and putting a new one in its space probably only takes a couple of seconds. But there is considerably more stuff on either side of that tiny fraction of the action that takes up considerably more time and effort and expertise to do than the take the thing out and put the thing back in, the small part that you focused on. This person that wrote this, either A, has never made anything in their entire life, as in they've never even picked up a tool, not even a wrench or screwdriver in their entire life, much less any experience on the subject matter that we're discussing here, or they are categorically mischaracterizing on purpose what it is that they are talking about. That was past tense me, and I just wanted to see what I said last time they decided to lie about this when they submitted the brief, and I thought that it fits so well that I just copy and paste it right into today's video. And what I will add to that is there is no frickin' way that this woman assembled a working firearm, a functional weapon from an 80% lower in 15 minutes. It did not happen.
Some of us who don't have a lot of mechanical ability have spent hours and hours and hours trying to assemble things that we've purchased.
I'm with you on that one, Justice Alito. As someone who struggles with IKEA furniture, let me do my best to try to be responsive to that question.
Sound off in the comments section down below if you've ever had anything to do with an 80%, and let me know if you were able to get it done in 15 minutes or less. She might have played with the tools and looked at how everything went together and all that sort of. There is no way that she did anything approaching a functional firearm in 15 minutes. It did not happen. As someone who has failed to complete 80%, as in they did not work when I was done with them after hours of work. As far as my credentials are concerned, I am a firearms professional that has worked in the firearms industry for over a decade at this point in time. I've been around guns since I was in single digits of age, and I've completed numerous of these things over the years. I have specialized training, experience, and a whole bunch of specialized equipment that would give me a leg up over anybody who's trying to do this, and I can't get it done in 15 minutes. Liar. Of course, there is another possibility. She could just be an airhead that doesn't know what it is she's talking about. You've heard the term fake it till you make it. Well, that works as long as people aren't really paying attention, because there's some tells.
is because there are objects out there, toys and tools, that have a well-known non-weapon use, but that actually do expel projectiles through the action of an explosive. A cap gun is an example of this. It expels birdshot, and so therefore it would fit within the functional definition, but it's not a weapon because it's not an instrument of combat or intended to be used that way.
Here's a blank pad, and here's a pen, all right? Is this a grocery list?
I don't think that that's a grocery list, but the reason for that is because there are a lot of things you could use those products for to create something other than a grocery list.
All right,
and so it's not like they're...
If I show you, I put out on a counter some eggs, some chopped up ham, some chopped up pepper and onions, is that a Western omelet?
No, because again, those items have well-known other uses to become something other than an omelet. The key difference here is that these weapon parts kits are designed and intended to be used as instruments of combat, and they have no other conceivable use.
General Prelogger, I just want to follow up on Justice Alito's question about the omelet. Would your answer change if you ordered it from HelloFresh and you got a kit and it was like turkey chili, but all of the ingredients are in the kit?
Yes, and I think that that presses on the more apt analogy here, which is that we are not suggesting that scattered components that might have some entirely separate and distinct function could be aggregated and called a weapon in the absence of this kind of evidence that that is their intended purpose and function. But if you bought, from Trader Joe's some omelet making kit that had all of the ingredients to make the omelet and maybe included whatever you would need to start the fire in order to cook the omelet and had all of that objective indication that that's what's being marketed and sold, we would recognize that for what it is. And it doesn't stretch plain English to say, I bought omelets at the store if you bought all of the ingredients that were intended and designed to make them, especially under statutory language that refers to something like breakfast foods or things that can be readily converted to make breakfast.
Yeah, so in some instances, she might be a little bit dim, but I'm still going with nefariously misrepresenting.
Why manufacturers would leave these holes undrilled? You said, what is the purpose? My friend responded that it's to create a kit that hobbyists can put together. I think that that's a questionable proposition, given that if it only takes 20 minutes, the hobbyist is probably not going to get his money's worth and won't actually have the experience of building a gun. But I also think it's contradicted by the facts on the ground, because what the evidence shows is that these guns were being purchased and used in crime. They were sold to be crime guns. There was a 1,000% increase between 2017 and 2021 in the number of these guns that were recovered as part of criminal investigations. And it makes perfect sense, because the whole reason why you would want to get your hands on one of these unserialized, untraceable firearms is if you are a prohibited person or you want to use that gun in a crime.
Again, sound off in the comments section down below. Did you complete your 80% because you are a prohibited person and you can't have a firearm? You want an unserialized weapon for that particular reason. I don't think that is what they're for. There are millions of them in circulation, and if there were millions of them in circulation being used in crimes, you would know about it. This is a lie. It is for hobbyists to complete their own stuff so that they can customize it how they want to customize it. The other thing that strikes to the heart of why they want to attack this thing is the firearms industry uses this part. It uses that quote-unquote 80% mark, which is colloquial. A manufacturer A might complete it to the 80% level and then sell those components unmarked, unadorned with any serial number or, branding and serial numbers because they're not complete, and then sell them to another manufacturer who is actually going to complete them to the level. And then at that point in time, they're going to adorn it with their serial number, where it was manufactured, all the federal regulations, and their own branding. They want to attack that to make it more difficult, to disrupt the industry in the way that it has been operating for 50 freaking years, as they mentioned. My phone, not yours. And they're blowing me up. I got to go here pretty soon. They hate you, and they have taken this to the maximum level, up and to the point and far exceeding lying to the Supreme Court. And it is on full display here. If you want to see the rest of the video, I'll have it linked in all the relevant places so you can go check it out. And brace yourself, it's like an hour and some change. But I think it's a good listen because there's some really, really good stuff in there and some obviously not so bright stuff either.